We would like to welcome Kiruthika Ganesan. Kiruthika is the head of QA at DECO, and she would be conducting a lab session on the power of example mapping. To know more about her and watch her video interview, you can check out the link on the screen. Kiruthika, the stage is all yours now. You can start with the session.
Hello, thank you. Was that Varshita?
Yes, it was Varshita.
Okay, hello Varshita, thank you. And hello everyone for joining the session. Let us try the screen share. Hopefully it will work. Let me know once.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, which one are you able to see now?
The power of example mapping.
Okay, cool. Why can't I see it? Right. Okay, so welcome again for this workshop. The idea behind this workshop is for everybody to collaborate, have fun, learn a thing or two. So I'd say that please put up your hand, come off mute. I'd love to see your faces and let's have fun for this session. So just out of curiosity, how many of you here have already got some experience with example mapping or have used it in some sort of capacity? You can use one of the virtual options, like raise hand, or even like come off mute and just say yes, no, or this is new.
Maybe yes.
Maybe yes. Oh, okay. Hi, Adi. Hi, Adi. Cool.
How are
You're
you?
also here. I'm good.
Yes.
I'm good. Thank you. I was just like having some issues with my audio. So hopefully it's okay now.
Yes, it's all good.
Cool. Okay. Right. Hopefully the audience will warm up. So a sneak peek into the agenda before we get started. We'll have a little bit of an intro about the session itself, and then we go into a warm-up activity. And then there will be a deep dive where we'll break out into groups, ideally 5 or 6 max, and then we'll have the actual activity, and then we'll come back and have a little feedback on how the groups felt about the activity, about the technique and all that. And then the final part would be summary, and then how you can implement the same in your companies or in your teams. So let's get started. This is me. I'm Kiruthika Ganesan. You can call me Kika, the first and the last syllable together. I'm the head of QA at DECO. My LinkedIn handle, if you wanted to connect. I've got over 15 years of experience in software industry, but I'm like really passionate about testing. I've been a developer, trainer, and do love speaking in conferences, meetups, and things like that. But I'm like really passionate about testing. And the other area which I'm really into is women in tech activities. And I help out women who are on a career break and they want to come back to the IT industry. So I do a lot of things as part of this initiative. That's a lovely picture drawn by my daughter, me, my husband, and our 2 wonderful girls. We are all chilling there. So that's about me. Now, let's start the session with a question. Why are examples powerful? Say, for example, you went on a holiday, tried scuba diving or deep sea diving for the very first time in your life, and it blew your mind. You come back home and try to explain this wonderful experience to your friend who hasn't got a clue about what you're talking about. They can't relate or understand why you're making a big fuss about it because they don't understand it. So explaining this amazing experience is hard, and understanding that is equally hard. Now, imagine if you can show your friend a photo, or even better, a video, then it instantaneously changes the equation. They are now able to understand what you're talking about, and you are able to have a meaningful conversation. So examples are very powerful, especially when you're explaining or trying to understand an abstract concept. Cool. Okay. Right. So we know examples are powerful, but how can we use examples to understand the requirements? Is there an actual need in the software development lifecycle? Again, an example, consider a story refinement session where the whole team is there. The PO comes in, presents a story, goes over the written acceptance criteria, opens up the discussion to the team who ask questions and try to understand the story. It's all good, right? Is there a problem? What do you all think? Any thoughts? People can come off mute. This is an interactive session, people. So if you don't interact, then it won't be that much fun. And I don't want to do the talking here. So is there a problem? PO coming into the session and then asking questions, presenting the story, and then opening up the team to questions, right?
He has to try to gather some information from the team, what they think about it, what is their opinion, is there anything that they can do better within that, or any kind of suggestions from their end, probably.
Okay, thanks, Prashant. Yeah. So are you saying that PO has already got the acceptance criteria and then opening the story or like the discussion to the team and getting their feedback? Sorry, yeah. I can hear that somebody is ordering paratha. I would like that as well. It's like really early in the morning and cold. Was there any other answer there? Okay. Cool. So just hold on to that thought. Thanks, Prashant, for sharing. And I'll play this video. I found this as part of like a parent group thing. And I thought this is like the perfect example to explain the problem statement. Are you guys able to hear it?
What's up, the internet? You know what? I'm hungry. I could really go for.
Did you guys hear that?
Yes, we're able to hear.
Okay, cool.
Or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Do you guys think you can write down some instructions and teach me how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich?
Yeah.
Then do it.
I knew we were gonna do this. I heard Dad talking to Mom.
Choke yourself on my hand. Sometimes they do what you tell them.
Dad, I'm done.
Step 1. Get 2 pieces of bread out. Got 'em. Get a butter knife and get some PB. Take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
No, Dad, with the peanut butter.
I'm just doing what it says. It says take 1 piece of bread, spread it around with the butter knife.
Hold on.
Get some jelly, rub it on the other half of the bread.
No, Dad, open the jelly.
Well, it doesn't say to do that. Put the breads together on top of each other. Take a big bite. This doesn't taste like a peanut butter jelly sandwich. Fail.
Okay, so I'm not going to play the whole video, but I'll definitely share the link and you can search for peanut butter jelly sandwich instructions and you'd see this PBJ classroom friendly video. It's rather funny. And then it is also like thought provoking, I should say, because if you're going to go about written instructions and somebody has to follow it, if you're not on the same page, it can go like drastically the other way and fail miserably as well. So cool. Okay, so hopefully I've identified the problem. That is, acceptance criteria are the output of the team engagement and not the other way around. So before you write the acceptance criteria, communication and collaboration needs to happen. And acceptance criteria written by one person is never helpful. It might look helpful, but it isn't. And then it is like giving crutch to a person who can walk perfectly on their own. So like the crutch, the acceptance criteria can look helpful, but they actually make you miss out on the opportunity to run. So it kind of hurdles the team coming together and then understanding the story and proceeding further. Cool. So what can we do about it? We can try example mapping, as it's all about asking questions and understanding the abstract concepts by coming up with positive and negative examples. It is also visual, so it helps bring various people and perspectives onto the same page. Okay, just like the picture there. So what is example mapping? Example mapping is a technique to gain clarity around the story requirements. It gives structure to your refinements. We'll see how it gives a structure in a minute. It promotes communication and collaboration. All the relevant stakeholders are able to have a shared understanding and use common language, because that's very important. You are able to identify unknowns and risks early on. And it is like the ultimate shift left, where you can identify discrepancies and dilemmas and prevent bugs even before a single line of code is written. So all of these little things form the crux of BDD, behavior driven development. BDD is not a tool, it's a process where everybody comes together, works collaboratively, and starts building quality products for our end customers. So now we know what is example mapping. Let's dive into how to do example mapping. First, you need the ingredients, you need stakeholders, minimum the three amigos, the PO, the developer, tester, but you can bring in other people like a UX designer or a data architect or anybody, even a customer representative, customer service representative or a support agent, even based on what story you're doing and how important it is to have that stakeholder in that story. And then setting a time limit is very important. 25 to 30 minutes sounds about right. It's a very intense, engaged, and focused activity. So spending more than 30 minutes might become overwhelming and exhausting, as people would find it difficult to concentrate. So please stick to the time. Next is you need to have some sort of like tool to practice this technique. If you're in office, the classic whiteboard, colored cards, markers will do. When you're trying this technique out online, like how we are going to do it today, I find Miro is a good option. You can also use mind maps or Google spreadsheets or similar tool, which enables people to interact with it in a real time and work collaboratively in a remote setup. And this is essentially how the cards would look like after the activity is done. So you'd have a yellow card where the story details are written. Business rules are noted on a blue card, and examples are jotted down in a green card. And then you have your questions captured in a red card. Okay, so let's go on to the next session. So the whole idea here is what you're going to do is you try to write the examples and you learn or you understand the rules with the help of examples, and in turn you understand the story. So it is like a bottom down approach rather than like a top down, and it works extremely well. Cool. So let's do the warm up. In this warm up activity, what we are trying to do is we'll try to differentiate the differences between business rules and examples, because whenever people start doing this activity, one of the main questions or one of the main hurdles they have is like, what is a business rule? What is an example? And then there is lots of confusion around it. So let's do this as a warm up activity. I love Christmas, so this is Christmas time. So this is a sample user story. So the user story says, as a cafe owner, I want to create a Christmas themed treat to capture my audience and increase my business during the holiday. So this is a story, and you can see that that story is written on a yellow card. So that's good. And we have got a business rule, which is written in a blue card. And this business rule is, must be a sweet treat with a Christmas decoration. So understand that business rule is something which comes from the business. It is a business logic, and you can always challenge the business rule before you commit to it. But then once you commit to it, you go with it, because that is what makes the business tick. So this is a business rule, which is they are going to set out a new Christmas themed treat, and this treat would be a sweet, and then it has to have a Christmas decoration. So what could be an example in such a case? So this is my example. I've got a dark chocolate cupcake with brandy and orange flavor with a Christmas tree on top. So I've written it down on a green card and I have explained it. And this example actually corresponds to the business rule as well. So I've written it down and this is a picture of it. So examples could be varied. It is not specific that you need to write it down. You can draw it. You can add an Excel sheet, or you could even put it as an error log. So it depends on the story. And examples are, you can be creative when you're creating examples, because the whole point is you're trying to understand the business rule. So whatever aligns with that, you could use it as an example. And you can have positive and negative examples. Both of them are a positive example. This one is also a sweet treat. That's why I put that picture, but you could have like other examples, positive and negative. Okay, so I will stop sharing this one. Are you seeing anything on my screen?
Yes.
Okay, you guys are seeing my Miro board, yeah?
Yeah, if you can click on plus,
Yes.
maybe it will be more visible.
Okay, perfect. So what I will do is, I'll try to copy this on the chat. Is this the chat, or where do I put this?
What do you want to do, Kiruthika?
I want to share the link to the group here. So if I put it on
link
the
you
chat,
can share. Link you can paste in chat.
will it go to everybody, even on the
Yes.
track one?
No,
Not
it will
track
come
one,
in this
only this.
one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I've put the Miro board. So if people could log in, I think you should be able to.
Yes, we are able to.
Okay. Okay, let's see as people join. Perfect. Okay, I can see. Okay, so what we are going to do now is I will zoom it a little bit more. Is that better? Okay, so literally what I had shown in the slides is here. So you have the story, which is captured in a yellow card, and you have my example business rule in a blue card, and my example in the green card. So what I want people to do is just think about, if you are a cafe owner and you want to create a Christmas themed tree to increase your audience and increase your business, what sort of things you will consider. So grab, oh, okay, sorry. I think, one second, I don't think you can grab the cards. Hold on. Okay, cool. So let's. Okay, so grab a card and then, so you can drag and drop. Now, can you drag and drop? Okay, cool. I can see people writing stuff. That's good. Perfect. So I can see that you're writing examples. And please try to add business rules as well. And for every, if you have any business rules, yeah. Okay, this is not working. Let me. Okay, so we have got gingerbread, we have got tarts, we have got sugar candy. Okay, I'm not sure what is sugar candy though. So this one is cream cake. Okay. Sweets and salt cookies of different shapes like star and circle. Okay, so I think that one is example rather than, or you're saying that because it is okay. So who wrote this blue card? Because this one looks like 2 or more examples written in the same one, and they are positive and negative examples as well. Because the business rule was supposed to be a sweet treat. And we have an example here. So I'm going to change this to green because this is exactly an example. Thank you. So is there any other business rule which people can think of? Because all we have got is one business rule, which is it needs to be a sweet treat. But then how can a cafe owner increase their business during the holiday season? So you come up with a new product, which is a sweet treat, but then what else you need to make it a reality and for people to actually come and buy it? Okay, business biscuits with different shapes of Christmas decoration. Okay, I'll put that here. Okay, I can see that one person is trying to write a business rule, maybe. Perfect. Bring it on, I say. Online event to interactive section. So are you saying that we need to host an online event? I think that's a very good business rule because then you can bring about more business, you can increase the visibility, do some marketing. Yeah, real-time pricing of the product. Okay, can see that something is getting tight. Christmas gifts of. Okay, biscuits and cake shape of Christmas tree. Okay, that's not a story. That needs to be an example. I'll just like pop it down. Perfect. I think we'll work on this warm-up activity for a minute. Share it with visitors. Okay. That is a business rule. Online event, that is a business rule. I'll change it into a different blue. Christmas gifts, I'm not sure what that is. I'm not sure whether that would be a business rule too. people could clarify real-time pricing of all the product for local sellers that will help the user to get the price of an item from anywhere. Okay, that sounds interesting. Maybe we need to explore that further if we want to go through that route. Some gifts to be given on a specific purchase. Okay, maybe a bulk purchase, or like you do a specific quantity, then you'd get a. Okay, cool. Okay, I think let's move on to the next session, next part of it. Right. Okay. So is the group able to understand the difference between the business rule and an example?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so let's go back to the slides again. Are you guys able to see my slides now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so perfect. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And thank you for all of those who participated as well. There was like quite a few hiccups in the start. I didn't get the sticky notes out of the lock section, but it was a good run. So what did we learn? Business rules are the business logic, which cannot be changed. You can challenge it once it comes through from your business, like through a business owner or like a business analyst or a product owner. But then you can challenge it. But once it is fixed, that's it. You can't change it. Examples helps describe those business rules and what does it mean for different personas, how it will be applied for different scenarios, and all those wonderful things. So even when we did this activity, we were talking about, okay, what happens if we wanted to get a bulk quantity? So there needs to be some gifts which would come along with it. Right. So now we'll deep dive into example mapping. So this example mapping session has got part 1 and part 2. Even when you're going to run it in your team or in your company, or this is how it's best to run it. So we have a story card. It says that as a cafe owner, I want to, so it's the same thing, same story, which we try to map out the business rules and the example. So as a cafe owner, I want to create a Christmas themed treat to capture my audience and increase my business during the holidays. So this is like a PO task. PO comes up with the story and also the business rule. So let's see what are the business rules I created. Yeah. So for this hypothetical story. So the first one we already saw must be a sweet treat with a Christmas decoration. Another business rule which I have got is a small batch must be ready by the 1st of November to sell in the cafe, because whenever you're trying to launch a new product, you will do MVP or maybe even a pilot version. First write out whether people actually like it, and then you would like full blown go and produce that on a mass quantity and then have it in your cafe. So a small batch, just like a trial. And then to make the price economical, a single piece must be less than £2. I think one of the participants actually wrote about a price aspect. Yeah, so this is my sort of like price take on it. And the cupcake must be luscious and Instagram worthy to capture the audience during holidays. So this is my angle of marketing. And there were like a marketing event or something like that, which was there on the card as well. So perfect. So we have got the business rules. So this hypothetical story has got 4 business rules. The product owner comes in with the story card and the business rule card. So this is the part 1 of the example mapping session. And then in the example mapping session, part 2, the whole team gets involved and the team works on examples, positive and negative, and they try to understand the rules. And how they try to do it is when you write an example, the beauty of the example is that it has got 3-part construction. First is the context, action, and then outcome. So context, it is the prerequisite for something to happen. That is for that example to happen. And then action is the trigger, which will make something. And then the outcome would be the result of that action. So every example would be split into context, action, and outcome. And this becomes easier in terms of describing that example, especially if you have a positive and a negative example as well. And this three-part structure loosely gets coupled with the given when then format, which you'd have seen in popular tools like Cucumber or like Serenity and things like that. So this is a positive example. And the example is like dark chocolate cupcake with brandy and orange flavor and a Christmas tree on top. That's an example. So what would be the context? What should be like the preset for an example to take place? The initial cupcake designs, recipe, and the budget is agreed. So that is the context. Action is the chef makes delicious cupcakes following the recipe, and the outcome would be the first cupcake batch is ready to be displayed in the cafe. So you have an example for the business rule, and now you know how to implement that example, because in order to implement this example or the cupcake, you need to get the designs, recipe, budget, and all that needs to be agreed. So there is some pre-work which you need to do. And then the action is actually making the cupcake, and the outcome would be how you would sell the cupcake. So this is a positive example. Next, this one is a negative example. I'm going to make a savory version of the cupcake. So if I make a savory version of the cupcake, how will the context, action, and outcome look like? So the context is the cupcake designs, recipe, or budget won't be agreed. Even if the designs or recipe are there, there won't be any budget because you have already committed to a sweet treat. And then the action is chef won't be able to make it because even if the designs get agreed, the chef is like, no, I can't do it because I'm already, or like my resources are already tied up with making a sweet version of it. And then for the outcome would be there is no savory cupcakes at the end. We talked about a red card. Red card is for questions. So in this context, you have a question. How could the sweet be served? Either it could be hot or it cold. Like you have a hot brownie and then a cold ice cream. So maybe do you want something like this? Maybe a cold latte or like a cold coffee along with a cupcake. Does it come as a pair or can people choose? So that could be a question in this instance, which you could ask your business, and the product owner can capture it and go and ask the relevant people, get the answers. So this is how we'll be mapping out. And this is a user story because user is involved and we are talking about all of this. Right. So we've got the yellow card, which is the story card, the blue card, which is the business rule card, and we have mapped out the examples in green card, and we have even deconstructed our example into three parts, which is context, action, outcome, and we have a question which is captured in a red card. So this is essentially how we will go about and do the activity. Any questions so far?
Yes, can I ask one?
Yes, please.
When we talk about something which is in a negative side, like for example, we know that it is not sweet, like savory version, do we still have to do the context, action, and outcome? Because we are then probably, I think, expanding onto something which probably is an overkill. Do you think that?
Yeah, so it depends on your context as well. So this actually, I'd say that context, action, outcome is really helpful in a negative case. This one was like a very simple scenario. So if suppose you feel that it's overkill, you can just like copy and paste stuff, or you can say that that one doesn't exist. But then thinking about it makes sense. In a real life case, maybe you have a negative case, you have a negative validation on a UI screen, then you would have a error page instead of the next screen. So in order to think about, oh, there needs to be an error page. So I need to design a page which says, okay, this is not me, or it is someone else. My third party went down, or I went down. And then I'm going to like give you details so you can contact an administrator or things like that. So most of the times, whenever we are thinking about a story, we don't think about the negative cases and they end up as like a error scenario story. So I would say that I'd always encourage people to think about the positive and negative examples, but then, yeah, don't go overboard if suppose your context and action doesn't make sense, but definitely think about context action. Once you have it as a checklist, then you are forced to think about it. Otherwise, you'll like forget about it. Does that make sense, Aditya?
Yep, thanks.
Sure. Cool. Any other questions? Is everybody clear on the format? Because next we'll be deep diving and then doing the activity ourselves. Cool. So let's do it. We'll have two examples. One is a user story where the persona is a user, and we'll also have non-user story where the persona is a software, maybe an API or a microservice or like a Kafka engine, because realistically, whenever we are developing anything, like in the ideal software development lifecycle, we come across user stories and non-user stories. So we'll see examples as well. So we'll be working on Candy Crush. Hopefully people know what is Candy Crush. If not, then this is a game. And in this game, the whole point is to crush a candy, and you can crush a candy by crushing 3 similar candies. And then once you have a super candy, then you can crush it more. So for example, on the top left-hand corner, I don't know whether you can see my cursor. Are you guys able to see my cursor?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So there is like three blue ones, and you have an yellow in the middle. So you just swap this blue and yellow candy, and then all these 3 blue candies would have a crush, and then you'd have the points added to it. And if your target was to crush 3 blue candies, then you are through to that level. And you have like these candies, which are like super candies and things like that. So basically, you have to crush 3 similar colored candies or more. Right. So the user story for this is, as a player who knows the rules of the Candy Crush game, I want to play the game and clear the level with maximum points so that I move on to the next level spectacularly. Right. So that is my user story. And the business rules, so I'm the product owner in this case. So I have come up with this story, and then the business rules. The first business rule is a crush is swiping 3 same colored candies in a row or column. Then the next business rule is there is a preset target to complete the level when the player enters the level. The third business rule is level is complete when the assigned target is met by the player. So those are the 3 business rules I have come up with as a product owner. And I will give this to the team. That's all of you. And you can come up with positive, negative examples. If you want to add more business rules, by all means, go and add more business rules. But make sure you add business rules as a blue card and an example as a green card. So this is the user story. This is a non-user story. So you can see that on the top, you have the target, and in the bottom, you have the moves and the score as well. So this is the same for both user story or non-user story, because Candy Crush, this is how it would be. You'd have the candies to crush in the middle, and you have the target in the top, and then the moves and the score in the bottom. Okay, so we have got an app, the Candy Crush app, which is a publisher. And then we have the engine where it captures the event. So that's the user actions. And then we have 3 microservices in the background. One is the candy microservice, next is the target microservice, and the score microservice. So based on the user action, so if it changes the candy board, that means the user is swiping 3 same colored candies. Say, for example, here there are 3 orange candies. So if the user swipes it, then the candy microservice get in ping, and then it says that, okay, I have to change the board now because this orange candies have gone. And then there is an API which goes and does that. It changes the board accordingly, and the event and the implications of the event get stored in the database. For target microservice, that's the target on top. That's like 1980. So if we consider that, if we get this 3 orange candies swiped together, we get 100 point. So 100 gets minus from the whole target. So that changes affect the target microservice. So the APIs and the database get involved. Same, the score microservice. So your score goes higher by 100, and then that changes in the score microservice. So these 3 microservices make sure the game runs smoothly in the backend, and then the relevant things are updated to the publisher, and then the user actually sees everything on the front end. So this is the architecture behind it. This is not the exact architecture, but this is like something which I've come up with. And what would the story look like? As a Candy microservice, here we are just talking about the Candy microservice. You can see that this is the persona. So it's not a user, it's a software, which is a microservice. I'm able to receive and process events based on the user actions so that the player can continue playing the game without any interruptions. So the business rules here would be Candy microservice is able to receive the events from the app and read the appropriate state when the user opens the app. And then the next one is Candy microservice is able to arrange the board with the relevant candies when it receives the event type as Candy Crush based on the user actions. Next one is Candy microservice is able to rearrange the board completely when there are no available candies to make a crush. So these are the top business rules I've got. So by all means, add more business rules if you want to, but also try to add examples against it. Right. So what are we going to do now? And if it is a technical story and it becomes too much for a product owner, then maybe a senior tech lead or like a senior developer or a senior QA, they can come and help out PO to come up with these cards. But essentially, this is the homework for the product owner. And just because it is technical story, I wanted to give out an example for this. So we are just taking the first one, which is first business rule, which is about reading the appropriate state when the user opens the app. So the context action outcome would be the app sends the event to the Candy microservice when the user opens a new level. Initiate the get API call with the appropriate authorization token. The response has the state level not started in its response, and the response code is 200. So this is done by the team. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking and we will form teams. And what I will do is, not that. Any questions so far? Any questions so far, people?
No.
Cool. Right, so I'll share another link here on the chat. And then if you open it, so this is what I've got, this Miro board. So we'll form groups. I think we have got 73 people. So if we say 5 or like 6, how much will that be? Okay, so I think we have got like 14 groups. So it would be good.
Should I help you create breakout rooms? How do you want me to do that, Sita?
Yeah, so we have got like 72 participants. So if we have like five people in one group, and people can go in and click on this group one link, and it will take you to the actual group area. And what we are going to do here is whatever we discuss as a non-user story, the story card and the business rule card are here. And then we have got the example context action outcome. You should be able to write on it, and you should be able to like get stuff from here, like pull it. And then also if suppose you want to have like a question card, add it here. And then this is the PowerPoint. Okay, I don't think you can click on that, can you? Right. So Adi, if you can like help me create the groups, I will unlock this one so people can actually look at the PowerPoint as well.
I would suggest that if people can see, division might be very difficult here. There are 73 participants, as you rightly said. So should we just say group one and then let people basically join there, and we can have a breakout room for them? Would that be okay? And we can, rather than, I think there may be people who may not be participating. So can we all request everybody to say if they are participating, just say yes, so that we know exactly how many would be participating?
Yes.
So just put your in the chat say yes. Okay, so we will at least count. So Archana, myself, Tayab, Sushant 4, Aditya 6, Ganesh 7. Anybody else who would like to participate? So there are 7, Kika, maybe 8, Nikhil, 9, Harshad.
Okay.
So is it okay if we create 2 breakout rooms and break out into 2 teams? Is that okay? Gauri Gupta 10, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Because I don't
Yeah.
think 70 to all main like would be. I that's what I thought. Maybe it would be a good idea to do it like that, because otherwise people would not act within the groups. That's probably my thought.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
So should we just create 2 more breakout rooms for you, and then we can call them as example mapping 1 and example mapping 2? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. If those, because this one would be like an interactive session as well. So if people can't participate, then yeah, I don't know.
So I don't have rights to create here. Maybe I'll talk to one of our persons and help create that. Just give me a second, okay?
Yeah, sure.
1 minute. I'm just calling him, Geeta, okay?
Yeah, sure. No worries. Okay. Cool. So if there are only 2 groups, then I think it should be okay. Yeah. So we've got this group area 1, where there is business rules and examples, and then this is the PowerPoint. So you could change it, and if you wanted, so basically what we went through, this is how an user story mapping has been done, and also the example for the non-user story, it's here as well. So if you wanted to go through it,
I think since we have started the breakout rooms, adding something now is not feasible. That's what Amit told. So can we basically do it here itself if possible, because there are 10 people and then we can all participate? Would that be okay?
Sure. Okay, let's go for it then. So
or else I can create another meeting, but then it would create more issues, because then bringing it back might be an issue. I'm sorry. I thought we could have done it. But,
okay, no worries. That's fine. Right. Okay, so what we'll do then is we've got 2 areas here. So if people could go on to the Miro board and then have a look. So either people can choose as an example mapping for a non-user story, or an example mapping for user story, and then try to add positive, negative examples for all of the business roles. Is that fine with people?
Yes, I think I do understand. So we can all basically try doing that. So if we can divide ourselves, would that be okay?
Yeah, sure. So go ahead and then do it.
And we can start typing on the green boxes. That's what it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just go ahead and type on the green boxes, like the green sticky notes. So you could use the first one. And I'm like trying to get this one sorted.
And is it okay if you can show one example basically, so that it gives us some more insight? Maybe it would help us all here.
So that is why I've got this one, Adi, like in the bottom, we have got,
So Kiruthika, we just need to add examples, right? Not the rules.
If you wanted, you can add the rules too.
Okay.
Because as I said, we can challenge the rules. So you can see here, these are like this is exactly what I showed in the like presentation in my slides as well. So what we want here is you need to be able to, so here, when I say a crush is swiping 3 same colored candies in a row or a column, so what would be an example of it? And then context, action, and outcome.
Okay.
So how do we get the same colored candy? So maybe I can, example would be crushing 3 blue colored candies in a row rather than a column, or so that would be a positive example. So what would be the negative example? If suppose I do different color candy, yeah, 2 blue and 1 orange. So the context and action outcome, if it is same, then probably you could reuse the same thing, but outcome would be different. You only have a crush. Yeah. And then this is the target.
Somebody who does not play this game, or rather any such games, right? It is difficult to come up with the example. The only thing that could happen is, while we mentioned about the sequence of the coloring, that could be one way to look at it from the positivity of the examples, and negative could be the mixture of the colors, right? What else? Because see, it's the mind. If people know the game, it is easier for them to come up with the examples. Right, I think that's
that is why we need to have this conversation. That's a valid point, because when you're like developing a story as well, like developing something, and then you're talking about those requirements in a story, everyone won't be an expert. And that's why we have this sort of like an exercise. So you find, if your product owner says this is the business rule, you think about like various possibilities, ask questions, and then come up as examples as a team. So the whole idea of the breakout room was, okay, so if there are like 5 people in the group will discuss what would be an example, and then they will write it down. And then if that is an example, how will the context, action, and outcome look like?
So Kiruthika,
yes,
this is these 3, apart from these 3 rules, there must be some more rules also, right?
Yes.
Like if I put 4 candies together or 5 candies together, then it will become a super candy.
Yeah, and so that is a business rule. You could add it as a business rule. So you get a blue card, write that, and then that would become a business rule.
Okay.
So have that conversation. It's not about just writing it. So what would the rule look like?
Okay, we'll discuss here.
Yeah, because you're not having any breakout room. So I think we will all just discuss it here.
Okay, my few cents here then. Once all like it is not something rule, but we can have not only 3 but 5 candidates can also be possible to happen in a row, or 6.
Yeah.
So if we form a row of more than a row of 3 candies in a single row. So likewise, if 9 candies are possibly formed in a single row, we can get rid of that, and we can achieve higher score. So that is an example. Can I say like that?
Yeah, so more than 3 candidates, that's actually a rule. But then the example would be like you make it more specific. So think about how we did the cafe one. Yeah, so cafe one was sweet treat, was a business rule. Example was the cupcake, dark chocolate cupcake. So same way, the business rule in the case,
then,
like what you're saying.
Okay, then example.
So, I think in the example, we had this colors, same colors. We can go for same shapes or same flavors of the candies.
Yeah, so in Candy Crush, so because I am the business owner, in this case. So you can ask me questions. I can tell you that it is the color which causes the swipe.
Okay.
Okay. So if you have any questions, so you can ask me, and if suppose I am able to answer it, then we get it. Or if there is like another person who can answer it, then we know the answer. If we don't know an answer and we still have a question, we put it in a red card. And the easiest way would be to copy something, just copy, paste, and then you can change the size, the color of it. So if you wanted a red card, you can put it as a red. Or you can like drag and drop this one as well. But yeah, just copy and paste.
Can we add the shapes of candies here as an example, and then divide that into context, action, and things? But again, that.
Yeah, you could do it, but I'm saying that it is the same colored candies. So no matter what the shape, if they are like yellow, then that's thing.
Make difference. Okay. As part of example, okay.
So I can see that yellow color candies in column put together and got crushed. Yeah, cool. So that's an example. Yeah. And then what would be the context for it? Okay, Archana is typing it. So what should be, if you have to do the crush, what should be there before you start the crush? And then the action is you do the crush, and then the outcome would be, okay, the crush has happened. Okay, I can see that somebody is typing in different business rule. Oh, okay, there is more things here as well. Cool. Swiping candies to a 4 same color for power candy. Oh, okay. Whoever wrote this is a business rule, but it's a good business rule. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and then paste it here and then change it to a blue card because it's a business rule. So yeah. So what would be the context? Are people finding it hard to find what would be the context for it? What would be the context? So what should be already there in order to make a crush happen? Okay.
I had added context. After, yeah.
Okay, so
correct?
this one, blue.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, blue candy is present between 2 yellow candies and 1 yellow candy. Okay. Yeah, that's a good context. Another context would be opens app and then it starts a new level. That could be a context. So you can start your context wherever you want to. So because it's a preset for making that action. Action would be same in almost all the examples if you're swipe, because it's just a swipe. But you can make it more specific or generic, like the context more specific or generic based on what you want to achieve. Is there anybody else who have, is there everybody working on the group 1 and 2? Okay. Right. I think it's just group 1 and 2. So maybe I'll just look through that.
So I have added action also. Swap blue candy upward.
Cool. Yeah. So I think we have on the group 1 area, we have mapped out one example. So thanks, Archana, for that. Okay. And then there is, I can see a negative example added in there as well. So that, okay, cool. Sushant is writing maybe a different one. And then he went away. Came back.
So outcome is Candy Crush complete. This is not the outcome for this particular example. So for this particular example, outcome should be yellow candy is crushed.
Will the yellow candies be?
Hi, Kritika, Tayeba here.
Hello.
I was having a trouble for writing the context for the power candies. So I have just written the format. Will this make sense? If you could see
Okay, so
the
where are you? Are you on the group
on
1
the
or group?
I'm in the outside of the group 1 and 2, I think.
Okay, so where have you written it for me to actually see, or can you read it out?
No, I just have written the pattern in the pattern wise.
Yeah, so what have you written? Like, how can I see it? Is this
Okay.
on the group area? Are you able to see my screen though?
Yeah, in that screen only. Yeah.
Okay.
So
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 here,
for the context, I was not able to elaborate it. So I just have written a pattern. Will this make sense?
oh, okay, yeah, that would make sense too. Yeah, perfect, because yeah, example is not about text, so that's good. Perfect. That's awesome. Cool. Right. So I can see there is more examples on the group 1 work area. 5 blue candies are matched together. Okay, so we are all working on just the Candy Crush part of it, but then can people think about the other things, like the other 2 business rules, or if suppose there is another business rule which is not in the Candy Crush area, because the whole point of the story is the user needs to complete the level spectacularly. So how can the user complete the level spectacularly? Doing Candy Crush is one thing, but what are the other things the user needs to do in order to complete the level? Because just by doing the Candy Crush alone, the user won't be able to complete the level. So we have got other business rules. And is there anyone who is trying out the non-user story? Fine, that's fine. Yeah, if people are comfortable with user story, if we had breakout rooms, then that would, like, you can have a conversation separately. Okay, so have a look. There is a preset target to complete the level when the user enters the rule. Oh, okay, what is Ganesh typing? After crushing, required score, example 300 should complete the level. Okay. So what would be the context for that, Ganesh?
That's what thinking. So
It's a bit
probably,
hard, isn't it? If you have to like think about it, it might be quite straightforward, but you think about the context and I'm like, oh, okay, what should be the context here? How can I type it? But then once you get the hang of it, it's like very useful.
yeah, true in that sense. It's just probably the first time that kind of an exercise we are doing.
Yeah.
It's true. And that for Candy Crush. Instead of this, probably it would if it would have been any technical user story, could be a possibility of thinking the tools and techniques and all those things.
Yeah, you could employ the same thing as well. Somebody must be testing Candy Crush, isn't it? King has made a fortune out of it.
Okay, context would be.
Okay. Well, what do other people think about it? So even if like the other participants who are just like on the call, you want to help out anybody who is like trying it out here, just like looking at it, you need not type, but you can help the people who are typing, or maybe even have a discussion that's allowed. So when do you think a target is assigned, Ganesh? Because you want to assign, so you have got an example where you're saying that the
Particular, yeah.
required score is, required score is like 300. Yeah.
So that's 2 level for completing first level, like I can say that way. Because for each and every level, it would be something else, or maybe more than what we are having for level 1, the target. Context could be the number of
And you're also making an assumption here that that's like the required score. If you see, if you ask me as a product owner, I can tell you that the target would be either points, which is like 300, or it would be like for completing this level X, you need to like crush X candies. Like say, for example, you have to crush 10 orange candies, 10 blue candies, 10 red candies. Only then you move on to the next level. So there is no score aspect here, but you need to crush certain candies.
Okay.
Even there are some aspects like if you crush 5 super candies, then you can go in next level.
Yes, that is.
So that. Yeah, so even in the assigned target, you have like different examples now. Even for positive example, the target first example would be like score as you have written, and then the other one would be there is already preset candy to crush. That is your target.
And and another negative aspect would be like if there are bomb candies and if anyone burst, then your game will not go ahead and it will be
Archana is like a pro in Candy Crush. I feel like you would be
I stopped it because it is eating a lot of time. But while I was traveling, that time it was good time pass.
Yes. Yeah. So so you have like 3 examples now. So 2 positive and 1 negative from what Archana said. So maybe Archana, you could like help out by just creating that example. I'll just move it and then make that space. Okay, cool. Are there not any questions? People like, are there any questions or no questions at all?
Yes, please. There were 10 to 12 people.
Yeah, I have one more question. Let's say there are power booster tools to help quickly complete the game quickly. So that will be come in a rules, or we can have it in an example.
Okay, you're so that is like help, isn't it? Help, you can get help for completing the. Is that what you're referring to?
There is a booster tool like the hammer. You can click and crush any of the candy, even though it is not on of same series. There are other tools helps. So
okay,
those
what do you think that is?
I think that should be in the business rules.
Yeah, I
Because
do
the
think that is a
business
business
define
rule.
those.
Yeah, I think that one would be a good business rule to add. Because a specific example would be like, as you mentioned, hammer, but then the business rule would be you can use booster tools in order to expedite the process. Okay, so let me have a look at like how are we for time. So how long have we got?
There is one bomb.
8:15, 9:15. Okay, so maybe we'll give it another 2 minutes, and then we will maybe like do a little bit of a feedback on how people found it and things like that, and then I'll do the wrap up. Okay, so I think Archana is on a roll. Archana has written like 2 or 3 examples.
Yeah, Archana is from group 1. I'm also from group 1.
Okay, cool. I'm just like, I'm seeing it on a bigger screen, and then the minute I see who is talking, I miss the names as well. I think that was Ganesh, isn't it?
Yes, Kiruthika.
Cool. So did you get a context actually for that assigned target? You didn't get a context. Okay, so a good context would be person starting a level, and then the target is automatically set, and then the action would be performing the crush. Outcome would be based on the crush, your points get, like your target get closer. So if you have a X target, after the crush, it becomes X minus the crush. So if the crush is like if your target is the number of candies, then the candies get that minus, or if it is the score, then your score gets minus from the target. So that's something which I can think of.
And for this example, right, after crushing required score. So if you crush blue color candies, then you will get, I think, something 10 points. So likewise, we can multiply different color candies with the different scores, and we can achieve that. So we can define the number two colors, like blue color candy. If you will crush 3 blue color candies, then you will get 15 points, like that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. We haven't got any rule for score at all.
Yes. So
because we've got the target, but target is different from the score, isn't it? So yeah, we are missing an important business rule, because what the story mentions is the user needs to clear that level spectacularly. So clearing that level is achieving the target, but spectacularly is you getting like 3 stars, or like the highest score possible. So when, in order for you to get a highest score possible, you need to
define the scores for
each. Yeah. And if you have like moves available, then that one gets converted into score as well. If you have like 20 moves and you're able to finish the target within 2 moves, then all that remaining moves are like getting converted into score as well. Yes. Okay, perfect. Right. I can see that there's somebody added an example on a non-user story, but then it says an API is triggered and receive 200 response code. So that's a very generic example, I would say. We need to make it even more specific, but yeah, good try. Swiping of candies matching 3, 4 candies are vanished. Respective target score is updated and the new candies have appeared. Okay. Because it is the candy microservice, respective target score may not be an action here. Even that would be an like outcome. Yeah, and the target would target and score, that one would be as part of the target and score microservice. Here we are just concentrating on candy microservice.
Okay, so would it be like after crushing some candies, another level of candies will drop down or bring randomly?
Yeah, so there must be some logic behind how the board is getting like populated, isn't it? So yeah, adding candies onto the board, that would be the candy microservice job. But like how we saw in that architecture during when I was like showing the slides, target and score update, that is a different microservice.
Yeah. But bringing out the candies on board,
Yeah.
then what color candy should come, then how it will be decided?
Yeah, so that's an implementation logic. So you could have it as random.
Okay. Random colors.
Yeah, you could have it as random, and there is like again features where there was like someone who talked about booster tools. So if you maybe reach a particular level in your on the score, or even on the total overall score, or total like levels, if you have like gone till 100 levels, then you get some extra actions based on how much you have played. So you can choose an option on like what sort of candies you want as well. So there are some extra benefits for a player who has played a lot, or who has like progressed so far in the game as such, not in a level, but then in the Candy Crush game as well.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that could be examples for the same rule.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So thank you for participating. So let me go back to my screens. Okay, are you guys able to see my presentation?
Yes.
No? Okay, cool. So we have done the activity. So in the end, after we have mapped out all these sticky notes, or like we have played it in a actual face-to-face setup, we have played it on the cards. So what happens after that? So we get instant feedback on the current understanding of the story. So if there are more reds, that means there are more questions. If there are more questions, there are lots to learn. We can't play the story. If there are more blue, that means there is more business rules. And these business rules are the ones which would get converted into the acceptance criteria for the story. So the story is huge because there are so many business rules inside the story itself. So we need to split the story. And if there is more green, that means there are more examples for a business rule. So it is a complex rule or a complex acceptance criteria. So we need to split that rule into like 2 rules maybe. Product runs the session, they bring the story and the rules. And if you have like an awesome scrum master, they could take up like this running of the session part, but then product needs to bring the story card and then the business rules card. Team asks questions and then they add examples, both positive and negative, and you split it into that context action outcome. The questions become the action items with owners. So this is quite important. So the questions can be action item for either your product owner or business analyst, that is like they need to go and get clarification on a business requirement, or it could be for a developer, they have to run a spike to find out what happens, or it could be even for a tester to go and maybe try out like the error logging cases. So they need to go and check the logs and come up with how the existing system behaves, or there could be that like regression coverage, how many existing tests are there and things like that. So action items can be for any owner, and the owners need to be captured. The final step is you will change everything into Gherkin specification. So the business rules become the acceptance criteria, the examples become the acceptance tests. And then you need to get feedback from the like the 3 amigos, and also you present it back to the team who can then accept the story, whether it is like we are happy or like we are confident to play this story in the current sprint, and then they can estimate it. And the final part where you are like changing all the rules and the example into Gherkin or getting feedback from your product owner, I'd say that these can happen in parallel and they can happen offline without a need for a meeting. And then just it could be like you can have a refinement session which gets converted into an example mapping, or you do an example mapping in the start of your refinement session, and then you just have maybe your three amigos have that, and then later on you bring in the whole team, say that this is what we did, we mapped it out, and these were the examples, these were the rules, and we have converted into the Gherkin specification, and then you just like present it to the team back and then get an estimation on it and whether the team understands it and whether they are confident enough to accept it as a story for that sprint. And when you're converting all this business rules and the examples into Gherkin, I would say that other two amigos leave the product alone because they have come up with that business rules and the team has come up with an example. But then if ideal combo would be a dev and a QA, right? There's acceptance criteria, which is business rules conversion, and then the acceptance test, which is the examples conversion. If either the dev or a tester combo does it, and then get feedback from the product owner. And these ones, as I said, it can happen offline instead of a meeting. So you could use the collaboration tools like Jira or like Git. So you can put your feature files, which is your examples converted into tests, and then put it onto Git and say that, hey, this is my PR, review it. Or it could be adding it into the Jira story, or that is your business rules. And then you can just send the link over to your product owner and you can say, hey, product owner, what we discussed, it's now in Jira and it is in Gherkin. All these business rules converted into acceptance criteria. Have a look and give your feedback. So this is the acceptance criteria or the business rules for the user stories, which focus on the customer journeys. So this is my version of the user story, which we saw Candy Crush. Given that the user opens the apps and starts playing the level, when the user swipes 3 same colored candies, then a Candy Crush happens. So this is the acceptance criteria. And then this one would be the acceptance test, where we converted the example. So it is the same, but then there is a test data attribute based on the access and the position. So if there are 3 same colored candies on a row, which is like left to right, or it could be even right to left, and then the column, which is like top to bottom or bottom to top. So you just add a data attribute to it, and then you are able to get that as an acceptance test. And this again is for the non-user story. So given that the Candy microservice receives an event from the app based on user actions, when a particular event type is received by the Candy microservice, then it can read and process the event and set the appropriate state. So in this case, the acceptance test would be like when the event type of user login. So the user login could be new user or an existing user. And then the state could be level not started or level started or level in progress. So you are making a get state API call. So even in our sort of like case, there was just a call, API call. So you could given like once you talk about API, there are only like CRUD operations. So it would be either a get or a put or a patch or a delete. So you could come up with, okay, what is the specific API? And when you're discussing the story itself, if suppose you already have an API, then you can like reference that. If not, then on a high level, what that API would be called, you could even discuss that, because naming conventions are also important. Don't go into too much implementation detail because that's not what this session is about. You are talking about the user journeys, the user perspective, and whether you are getting the essence of the entire journey in that story which you're working on. Okay, so further references, Matt Wayne is the person who developed example mapping. He has got a wonderful blog, and yeah, he has got like things, he has talked in conferences, and then he has got it in LinkedIn, like Medium and stuff like that. So have a look at Matween and read about what he is saying on example mapping. John Bergeson Smart talks about not just example mapping, but then many things about BDD. And he has got a book as well. It's a good place to start reading about BDD in general. And then Cucumber has got an active interest, so you can look at their workshops or like even their blogs and stuff about how they implement example mapping or how they suggest about some of the techniques which you could implement in your sprints. And as I said, the active interest comes from how Cucumber has been developed. Some of the keywords which we used in the example mapping technique, as in like rule, example, examples, and all that is actually a Gherkin syntax. So if you wanted to write your feature file, you can instantaneously use this keyword, and your Cucumber should be able to understand what it is and then associate the relevant code behind it. So you don't have to write any glue code in order to make this visible, and it would automatically do it. So this is present in the latest version of Cucumber. So Cucumber 5.0.3 and the older versions, you should be able to get it. If you're using Cucumber 4 or something like that, then you may not be able to use it. So if you have the latest version of Cucumber, rule and examples are like the actual keywords. So example mapping in a nutshell. So you have a user story, you perform this action only on a user story. If you're doing it on an epic or a feature, that is a different technique similar to this called as feature mapping, which you could try. But example mapping is mainly focused on a user story. So you have the discovery phase. The discovery phase is talking about the requirements. So you have your major requirements, and then people talk about it. The formulation phase is once you receive the business rule, like the story card and the business rules card, then as a team, you understand the business rules, you add more business rules to it if you wanted, and then you challenge the existing business rule, you come up with a positive and negative example. So formulation is finalizing the business rules and then the examples. Automation is the next phase where you have identified all this business rules and the examples get converted into acceptance tests. And then these acceptance tests, once you finish that story development, you can actually make sure that it is confining to the story requirements, because you have a test, you can add it into your CI/CD pipeline and then make sure that what the team decided at the start, that this is going to be the user story and this user story is going to do 1, 2, and 3. So at the end of it, you are able to validate whether that 1, 2, and 3 have been done. Like when you talk about
sorry to interrupt, but I think a quick time check, Kiruthika, if you could wrap up. Just thank you.
Yeah, so this was the last slide even. So I was just saying that when we are doing the automation, it is like quite easy, because even if there are some things which is going to change, if you add your automation test or your Cucumber test in such a manner, in this manner, you're talking about just the executable specification. You're not saying about, okay, click this, click that, because this is all about, okay, this is the user journey, and then the implementation details can change, but then the user interactions won't change, or even if they change, you just have to change it on the like the abstraction layer, which is on the Cucumber layer, and you can change the implementation logic later. So a recap, example mapping talks about these three aspects in a nutshell. So discovery, you talk about the requirements, and then you formulate your acceptance criteria, that is your business rules and examples, and then you automate the relevant test. We talked about business rules and examples and what is the difference. Hopefully you understand that now. And we also explored how to do example mapping. How does the cards look like? What do the cards signify? And we did an activity, either using a user story or a non-user story. And then, yeah, I've done like talk on Ministry of Testing. If you wanted to have a look, or if you want to explain further, I'm just like talking about a take on user story and a different user story. There is a deconstruction of the PBJ sandwich. So if you wanted to look for it, you can look for it. So this is my final slide. This is happening real time in our current world. So let's change that narrative by working together and collaboratively and thinking about what the user wants rather than assuming it. So ask that questions and come up with positive and negative examples for all your business rules. And do try it out in your companies as well. Thank you. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Kiruthika. It was insightful. One question only.
Sure.
Can you just let us know, like, how we can imbibe this practice? Because we are, like the people who are not at a product owner level or a manager level cannot introduce this practice of having an example thing and all. So if you want to, like, introduce this thing, how we should approach?
Sure. I'd say that like even if you're not on a manager level, even if you're like a QA person, you can employ about asking this positive, negative examples. So that one you could definitely implement. And I would say that if you are on a lead level or things like that, then I could say that influence this by saying that when you have got product dev and then tester, the scale should be equal. So if one person takes too much responsibility, say if the product owner or the business analyst takes too much responsibility of bringing the requirements to the table, then the scale tips over to their side. So that means that they are the sole responsible person and they are like a single point of failure. They might become a bottleneck as well. So you could leverage saying that, okay, you know what, product, you don't have to do it all alone. We are a team. So you bring the bare minimum or like the skeleton stuff, and then we can work on it together. And one other thing where I have felt you can leverage this technique is for a technical user story as well, because most of the time, if it is a technical user story, product would say, okay, I can't do it. It is like too technical, you figure out. Or sometimes it might be like a very technical story, and then even QAs don't get involved. They are like, oh, you know what, QA, you don't know about that architecture, or you don't need to know about the architecture. So if you slowly practice this, then I would say that everybody gets a say in it and everybody would get involved. It might be hard to start with, but then once you ask this question, so think about, okay, what happens in a negative case? What would be the context? How can we write? So it also brings about TDD, because you write a test and then you code for that test. So it's not just PDD, you can even influence your team with the TDD.
Okay. Got it, Kiruthika. Thank you. Thanks for input. And thanks for.
I have one question.
Sure, go for it.
Only projects, like we are involved only in testing part, not in development part. Yeah. We got a ready product and we had to create automation for those products. In that case, how we can apply this theory?
Yeah, so I'd say that you need to get involved early on, but then if suppose there is like I don't know, if you're like a center of excellence team just dealing with automation, and then there is like functional teams or like the scrum teams who are actually doing this work, you could ask them to give you that feature file, so they need not do the implementation. But even if you guys get the feature file, it will be easier for you to understand. So if you have to figure out what is the requirement yourself, it might be hard. So even for a center of excellence team who is just like doing end-to-end testing or just doing the automation part of it, if you get information just like without a handover, saying that, okay, a demo or a handover, I don't know how the handover happens. Along with that, if you could get a feature file saying that, okay, these are all like the top scenarios and we care about these scenarios. Don't give us something which is like 3 click this, click that, or like just log in itself takes like 3 or 4 steps. Don't do that. And then it makes sense. So you could leverage that aspect of it and maybe convince all your teams to actually give you an output which you could easily consume, and it becomes easier in terms of test maintenance.
Okay, thank you so much, Kiruthika. If anybody has any other questions, you can maybe carry on in the chat. So 1 second, I'll just share my screen.
Sure.
Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Thank you so much, Kiruthika, for such an informative and lovely session. I am sure everybody